Moving on to our next chapter, which is sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Before studying this, we must study the male and female reproductive parts of a flower, which is a male reproductive part and which is a female reproductive part. Moving on to male reproductive part, stamen is the male reproductive part of the flower. You can see this is a complete stamen. And this stamen, it itself consists of two parts. One part is anther and other part is filament. This is anther, and the rest part, which is the stalk-like structure, as you can see, it is the filament. This anther is meant for producing pollen grains. So these are the pollen grains that are produced by anther, and these each matured pollen grains, it contains a tube cell, and the tube cell, it consists of a tube nucleus. So this is a complete tube cell which consists of a tube nucleus, but it also has two male gametes. The pink colored are the two male gametes which are present in this anther or in this pollen. The next part is the female reproductive part. So this female reproductive part, which is carpel, it is the female reproductive part, or gynoecium, we call it gynoecium sometimes, and this carpel, it also consists of many other parts. The top part of carpel, which is a sticky hairy like structure, it is known as stigma, and this which stigma, it is supported by a stalk like structure. The stalk like structure which actually connects stigma with the lower part, it is known as style. This basal swollen part of carpel, it is known as ovary. So this is a complete structure of a carpel. Ovary, as we can see, it consists of one or more ovules, and each ovule, it has a female gamete. So this is a complete ovule, as you can see, and each ovule, it has a female gamete. So this is a female gamete. So now let us discuss about various sexual and bisexual and unisexual flowers. Those flowers which have both male part and female part, they are known as bisexual flowers. Hibiscus and rose are one of the examples of those bisexual flowers. These are the male reproductive parts, and this is a female reproductive part. So both male and female parts are present in the same flower, so that is bisexual. Another is unisexual flowers, as we can see in papaya and watermelon. What happens? It does not contain female and male reproductive part in one plant. Rather, both female and male reproductive parts, they are present in different flowers. So that's why these flowers are known as unisexual flowers, which have only either male or female reproductive parts. So example of unisexual flowers are papaya and watermelon flowers. Now next, moving on to pollination. So how pollination or how fertilization actually takes place. For fertilization to actually occur, pollen grains must be transferred from the stamen, this is a stamen, and to the stigma. So pollen grains which are present in the anther, which in the pollen sacs, these pollen grains must be transferred from these pollen sacs to the stigma for fertilization to occur. If the transfer of pollen grains takes place in the same flower, like the same female part of same and male part of same, it is called self-pollination. But if there are two different flowers and the stamen of one flower is transferring the pollen grains or transferring the male gamete from one flower to female part of another flower, it is known as cross-pollination. For cross-pollination to occur between two different flowers, it must have some scenario, it must have some organs, and these are insects or by air. After the pollen grain, it actually lands onto stigma, whether it is self or whether it is cross-pollination. It must move inside the ovule. For itself to move inside the ovule, the tube cell, which was I told you earlier, it produces a pollen tube. So this is a pollen tube which is formed by the tube cell. It moves through the style into the ovule. The male gametes, they transfer through these tubules and enter the tube nucleus through this pollen complete tube. So this is a tube nucleus and this is a pollen tube. So these are the male gametes which are actually moving through this tube into the ovule. Once they reach the ovule, see, these are the male gametes which are actually reaching the ovule. Now they have a two phase. First thing is that this male gamete, it will fuse with the female gamete so that it can lead to fertilization. The male gamete, one male gamete will fuse with the one female gamete, and this phenomena will lead to fertilization, and this fertilization will lead to formation of a zygote. So this is a complete zygote which is formed by the fusion of male and female gamete. So this is a zygote, but we still have another male gamete left. The other male gamete, what it does, it fuses with the polar nuclei. This fusion of other male gamete with the polar nuclei, it actually leads to formation of endosperm. So this is a complete endosperm. What is the function of this endosperm? This endosperm is meant only to provide nourishment to the zygote, and this zygote, it multiplies million times to form embryo within the ovule. So this is how zygote is actually undergoing millions of cell divisions so that it can form a complete embryo, and this complete embryo will later form a complete seed. So nourishment to this embryo, it is provided by this endosperm. Endosperm, which is formed by the fusion of a male gamete with the polar nuclei and this complete embryo, and actually the ovule develops, and this complete ovule will undergo development, and after development this complete ovule will turn into a seed.